make sure everybody has an opportunity to present their input to the process. Where this came from, we have been considering for some time an action to which will become a part of Amendment 18 that proposes to draft.
But basically what's happening is we are headed down the road of fewer and fewer people owning the fishery. And it is now, it's not going to be much longer, but it is a public resource. Quite frankly, I don't think any person has any right to own it.
When I think about fleet diversity, I think back in a time when when diversity was everything in this state. You had to be diverse to make a living, and at this point, we've had that taken away from us piece by piece through a number of years.
Basically now forced to be a sharecropper. I wasn't lucky to get a boat with a bunch of history, and I was doing other things before 1996 to 2006 with the magic years. I was catching other types of fish, but I've been a fisherman since 1984.
Since 2007, it's been very clear that there have been no significant concentrations of groundfish from the Kennebec River to Canada. That's 150 miles of U.S. coastal shelf, and probably about a third of the entire New England coastal shelf system. It's also about a third of the spawning habitat for every coastal groundfish fishery we have. Cod, haddock, pollock, your flounders. We've allowed them to be so decimated that there isn't a single full-time ground fisherman left east of Port Clyde.
As the stocks disappear, small boats disappear. It's a rule around the world. There are a few places where that hasn't happened. The Japanese inshore fishery has been managed fairly well. They still have a small boat fleet. Chile does pretty well. They have an inshore-offshore rule. Japanese have an inshore-offshore rule. Iceland has an inshore-offshore rule. They do pretty well. Right? These are Australia may in parts. I'm not sure. New Zealand may. Right. The point is simply that where management has addressed the issues of the diversity in the ocean, especially by addressing inshore-offshore questions, the area management approach that Jason was talking about. Right. Those are the places where small boats and a diverse fleet have managed to survive.
I think there's an inshore, a place for small boats inshore and a place for large boats offshore. There's something I feel is common sense that you learn as you go on the water. The further offshore a small boat goes, the less likely he'll come back. The further big boats come inshore after the fish, the less likely the fish will come back. And I think we've seen a tremendous effort on the fish inshore, and that's why they were decimated, as we expect.
I think one step in the right direction, and probably would meet a lot of resistance, but I think a shift towards an owner-operator-based fleet is a good step in the right direction.
The fleet diversity means lots of different boats, lots of different size boats, different size fisheries. Some myself, I'm not going to work my smaller boat in the middle of the winter 50 or 80 or 100 miles offshore, but I can still 8 months a year I can work the boat and make a living and provide for my family. And that's what I want to do. I don't want a handout. I'd like to stay in the business. I don't think I'm going to be able to. If Amendment 18 and fleet diversity can somehow distribute this quota more fairly, then I'm in favor of it.
There is a need for an inshore boundary so that small boat fishermen can survive or exist, should be closer to it. I think the bottom line is perhaps the big boats need a line so that they're not destroying spawning habitat, nursery grounds, and the opportunity for themselves to have a good, stable, robust fishery.
whether you're a guy in a little boat, you're a guy with 3 big boats, when you get ready to sell, I think a certain percentage of your quota or your allocation needs to go to a permit bank.
I'm just thinking about lines as far as inshore, offshore. I think you've definitely got to, the line's got to be further off than 100 fathom curve. It's got to be out behind caches like that, maybe 50, 55 foot boat inside that. There's too much catching power with the big boats. I've been there, done it, and seen it.
I would really like to see owner-operator and size limit on boats, inshore, and I think it will help out the small communities along the coast here. Thank you.